the paradox in the world's energy powerhouse. There is an ironic reality unfolding in the middle of the summer of 2026 that very few people notice. When thinking of Russia, the world often immediately pictures an energy giant holding the lifeblood of the entire planet, with endless oil reserves buried deep beneath the Siberian soil. But right now, a wild scenario is hitting the Kremlin's home front. Domestic gas stations are starting to hang out of stock signs, long queues are forming in helplessness, and a major oil-exporting superpower is facing a severe fuel shortage, forced to rely on external emergency fuel supplies. A strategic report recently published by the Institute for the Study of War has exposed a severe production imbalance in the Russian fuel market. The outcome of this war of attrition is being decided right at Russia's domestic fuel pumps. Due to continuous disruptions to core supply chains from afar caused by Ukraine's precision strikes, the processing capacity at Russia's major oil refineries has plummeted, meeting a mere 65% of the citizens' actual demand. This means that for every 10 people taking their cars to get gas, nearly 4 have to turn around and head home with an empty tank. This production imbalance has pushed Moscow into an unprecedented situation in its history. They are forced to open up the national strategic reserves, while stretching out their hands to receive emergency daily allocations of 6,000 tons of gasoline from neighboring Belarus just to patch up the market gap. Yet, all of that remains a drop in the bucket against the massive fuel thirst of over 115,000 tons per day of an entire transport system during peak season. And when that thirst crosses the breaking point, the helpless sighs at the gas pumps quickly turn into a wave of chaos, pushing the Russian people into a new war of survival on the home front, where superpower pride is tested by literal waste and raw smuggling rings. The covert restrictions and the crumbling of a superpower illusion. To understand the core of this disruption, we must look directly at Moscow's systemic failure. Ukraine has proven they do not need to fight for every inch of land in the trenches. Instead, they apply a new formula of attrition. Cutting off the top, in June alone, 11 long-range drone strikes bypassed air defense grids, hitting distillation towers deep within Russian territory, up to 2,000 kilometers away. Consequently, 42% of Russia's national refining capacity was instantly paralyzed, wiping out $13.5 billion in revenue. This relentless tempo creates a compounding effect. Moscow cannot bring damaged equipment back online before the next wave strikes. Furthermore, Western technology sanctions turn routine technical glitches into months-long delays due to a critical shortage of spare parts. With these energy hearts disrupted, a covert energy restriction has been officially imposed across 50 of Russia's 83 federal regions. In border areas in the occupied Crimea Peninsula, domestic supply is so depleted that local authorities have rationed fuel sales and forced businesses to shift employees to remote work to choke civilian demand. The Kremlin immediately executed a nationwide deception, allowing refineries to lower technical standards to produce low-grade Euro 3 gasoline with sulfur content 15 times higher than previous limits, while slapping a premium Euro 5 label over it to deceive the public. This extreme trade-off directly ruins citizens' car engines and threatens environmental disaster, all to manufacture fake statistics on paper. Yet, the peak of chaos is unfolding right at domestic gas stations. Extreme scarcity has pushed public anxiety into panic. Waiting for up to 18 hours only to be met with an empty pump has triggered fistfights, knife attacks, and gun violence next to fuel dispensers. The collapse of the superpower illusion stands naked along the highways. A nation possessing nuclear technology and hypersonic missiles now watches its citizens relieve themselves on roadsides due to hours of waiting, forcing local mayors to urgently deploy portable toilets. More humiliatingly, along the southern border, Kazakhstan has set up 59 checkpoints to halt the abnormal surge of Russians crossing over to hoard and smuggle cheap gasoline back home. The world's #1 crude oil exporter is now surviving on smuggled fuel from Central Asian nations. The hourglass of trust for the Kremlin. The systemic disruption at the gas pumps is directly burning through the Kremlin's most critical strategic asset, public trust. For the Russian people, economic stability on the home front is the unspoken trade-off for foreign policy alignment. But when daily life is upended by fuel shortages, the narrative of inflation control begins to unravel. To conceal the truth, the Kremlin ordered the statistical agency Rosstat to halt its regular fuel price bulletins. However, suppressing data cannot fill empty tanks. Citizens are forced to rely on makeshift apps to hunt for fuel, and the government's silence only fuels growing public anger. Even the state-run Russian Public Opinion Research Center had to publish alarming data. President Vladimir Putin's approval rating has slid down to 66%, while trust in leadership has hit a low of 72.3%. It is worth noting that these figures are heavily vetted and massaged to salvage the administration's image. Reality at the gas pumps indicates that the undercurrent of resentment spreads much further. Only 27% of Russians still believe the economy is on the right track, a figure that exposes the massive financial crater the home front is forced to endure. The Kremlin is entering a life-or-death race against time in 2026. Ukraine has proven the absolute efficacy of a new formula of attrition. They do not need to capture every inch of land on the front lines, but rather drain the opponent's resilience from within. Every dried-up fuel dispenser, every outbreak of violence on the home front, and the rows of portable toilets along highways stand as proof that an energy superpower is being dismantled at its core strength. This summer's fuel thirst is no longer a temporary crisis. It is a stark warning of a depleted system with no exit strategy. The Vanguard Report strategic update ends here. We will always deconstruct geopolitical shifts through sharp analytical lenses and verified data. Subscribe to the channel to not miss our upcoming updates. Goodbye and see you next time.